Elliptic curve cryptography relies on the difficulty of solving this problem, in which a cyclic group of order n with generator g and a public key equal to g raised to the x. The task is to find x, which has been selected randomly from the interval between 1 and n minus 1 inclusive.
Yeah, so this is something complicated, which,
maybe now it's going, yeah.
nothing.
What do you got? This is called the discrete logarithm problem. Elliptic curve cryptography is an alternate to schemes such as RSA, which rely on the computational intractability of performing this operation, the decomposition of an integer into all its multiplicative components. Yes, for 20 points.
So it wasn't recording before?
It was not.
We missed the first
7.
some exciting things.
What's
that?
At this point in the game, do we read the score then?
No. Toss up 8. In one of this author's novels, Servando Huanca leads Sora Indians in a revolt against a corrupt mine. This author This author predicted I will die in Paris on a rainy day in his poem Black Stone Lying in a White Stone, and wrote a poem which begins, there are blows in life so powerful, I just don't know. This author lamented the destruction of the Spanish Republic in his poem Spain, Take This Cup From Me. This author of the protest novel Tungsten included a poem declaring on the day I was born, God was sick in his collection, The Black Messengers. His later poems are collected in his Poemas Humanos. After being falsely imprisoned in 1920, he wrote his masterpiece, the modernist sequence Trilce, for 10 points, named this Latin American poet who spent much of his life in exile from his native Peru. That's right. Jonathan Mangan special for y'all. Here's a bonus. 10 points each. Name some things about an embarrassing instance of nudity in mythology. Artemis was very much displeased when Actaeon peeped at her while she was bathing with her nymphs, so she turned him into this animal and caused him to be devoured by his own hounds. This goddess performed a humorous dance in which she exposed her genitals in an attempt to cheer up Amaterasu. In another story, she helped Ninigi by frightening the god of the crossways with her bare breasts.
Uzume.
Indeed. Lula Gifes is only wearing a net when he's slain by this figure, whose lover was Lu's wife Bloodweld. Lu eventually comes back to life and kills this guy, presumably while fully clothed.
Gwydion?
It's Gron. Gron Petter. You got 20 points on that. Toss up 9. Liban of Elis designed a temple to this god, whose east pediment depicts the chariot race between Onomaus and Pelops. Athletes caught cheating at the Olympics paid fines that were used to construct bronze statues of this god called Zanes. Alexander the Great's silver tetradrachm coin depicts the head of Hercules on one side and this god on the other side. Lysippus sculpted a 60-foot-tall statue of this god for Tarentum, and the Artemision bronze is thought to depict either this god or Poseidon. A statue of this god was the model of Horatio Greenoff's statue of George one over here. No. Of George Washington. He was usually depicted with an eagle and a scepter, such as in the massive gold and ivory statue sculpted by Phidias for the temple at Olympia. For 10 points, named this Greek god, who was often depicted in the act of throwing his lightning bolts.
Zeus.
Bonus for you. Bayanchuk is a medieval merchant on the Silk Road. Answer the following about his everyday life. 10 points each. At night, Bayanchuk rests in one of these sites, which provides lodging for traders on the road. There is also water and food for his Bactrian camel, which is laden with goods destined for the Levant.
It's just a caravanserai.
That's right. When he passes through the Ilkhanate, Bayanchuk must follow this code of laws, in effect throughout the former Mongol Empire. This code of law was allegedly first promulgated by Genghis Khan.
Yasa.
That's right.
Yes.
As his name suggests, Bayanchuk is a member of this Turkish ethnic group, which has embraced Islam. Today, this group is found in China's Xinjiang province, but they cause many headaches for the communist government.
Still Uyghurs.
That
was 30?
That's it.
Okay.
Toss up 10, after which we will do a score check. This man served 8 years as the mayor of Toul prior to becoming the leader of his political party. This man's affair with a journalist named Valerie Trierweiler may have led to the end of this man's marriage in 2007. This man has adopted the political slogan, "Change is now," and his opponent recently mocked him for needing to hold a concert to draw supporters to a massive political rally in the Vincennes neighborhood. In recent weeks, polls have suggested that the surging candidacy of Mélenchon from the splinter left party may cause this man to finish That's right.
That's who that is.
Name some things about the Calvin cycle for 10 points each. This substance is the first product of carbon fixation. 2 molecules of it are produced in the first step of the Calvin cycle.
Say it. Carbon.
No, it's phosphoglyceric acid, or PGA. This is the enzyme that catalyzes the conversion of carbon dioxide to phosphoglyceric acid. It is the most prevalent enzyme on Earth by weight.
Is that Rubisco thing? Rubisco.
Carbon fixation by Rubisco begins when Rubisco generates this form of ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. More generally, these are species containing a carbon-carbon double bond with hydroxyl groups on either side of the double bond.
So you just dienols? Yeah, sure. Dienols?
No, these are called enodiols.
So that's 10. 20.
That is 10 points on the
10,
bonus.
So
and
20 in
that's
total. So at the half, I have 260 for Yale A, 10 for Virginia.
Yeah, I know. What was it? 260.
You're under the gun.
Okay.
Okay, you guys ready? Here comes toss-up 11.
Lead the way.
Cesar Schmidt threatened to publish a pamphlet in Switzerland revealing the existence of this entity, which was partially run by a Captain Fischer based in Zurich. The threat posed by a paramilitary organization called the Guelphic Legion was the initial justification for the seizure of money used to create this entity. Count von Holstein, a top advisor of the King of Bavaria, was forced to resign after revelations that he had been influenced by this entity. This entity was formed using assets seized from King George V of Hanover, who had sided with Austria in the 7 Weeks' War. For
Reptile Fund?
That's right.
You sitting on that
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I pick a bunch of germs.
You can talk to Bruce about it. This event is not found in the Synoptic Gospels and is only found on chapters 2 of John for 10 points each. Name this event at which Jesus performed his first miracle by changing water into wine.
Letting a Cana.
Wine was enjoyed not just by the guests of Cana, but also by this group of Hussites, who took their name from the belief that all believers should be given both wine and bread when celebrating the Eucharist.
Well, Utriquist sounds right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Way to logic that. This Bohemian follower of Jan Hus founded the Utriquist movement in 1415 and is still considered one of the finest Utriquist theologians of all 3 of them.
Okay, say that. Zizka?
It's Jacob of Mies.
20.
Sounds like you.
Jan Zizko is decidedly not a
I
theologian.
don't know if that's actually the root, but why not?
Okay. Toss-up 12. This work contrasts George Herbert with Alexander Pope and Spinoza with Locke as examples of the difference between sacred and literary teachers, the first of whom speak from within, while the latter speak from without. Noting that the position men have given to Jesus is a position of authority, this work claims that the faith that stands on authority is not faith, and concludes by encouraging men to perform an action that will cause them to cease from what is base and frivolous. As examples of contact with the title entity, the author offers the convulsions of George Fox and the rapture of the Moravian and Quietist, and in one of its opening sections purports to report hints of the transcendent simplicity and energy of the highest law. This work refers to the title entity as the supreme critic and identifies it with that great nature. 4. That's right. In this opera's 3rd act, the title character sings Depuis le jour and is crowned Queen of Montmartre by a group of bohemians. 10 points. Name this opera by Gustave Charpentier about the title seamstress's love for the artist Julienne.
Julie.
That's right. Louise is often considered a French example of this type of opera, which focuses on realistic subjects and became popular in the late 19th century. In Italy, examples of this type of opera include Pagliacci and Cavaliere Rusticano. In this Verismo opera, the title poet is guillotined along with his lover Maddalena during the French Revolution. It features the aria La Mamma Morta and was composed by Umberto Giordano. That is 20 points. Toss-up 13. The last section of this work discusses a novel by Mr. A, which is dominated by the shadow of the letter I. This work's 5th section dissects the novel's life's adventure and praises its sentence, Chloe liked Olivia. 5.
Again.
Bonus. 10 points each. Name these American thinkers who wrote about advertising. The sociologists argue that advertising helped transform America into a community of publics, from a community of publics to a mass society. In his study of the links between economic, military, and political leaders, the power elite. This social critic analyzed the psychological techniques used by advertisers in The Hidden Persuaders. His other books include The Waste Makers and The Status Seekers. Okay, this is Vance Packard. This nephew of Sigmund Freud believed that public opinion had to be guided to prevent society from succumbing to the irrationality of the herd instinct. This father of public relations hired models to light cigarettes, which he called torches of freedom, in his successful campaign encouraging women to start smoking.
So, it's not good. It's some Viennese propagandist. Dolphus.
It's Edward Bernays.
So
10 points. Toss up 14. Who and White worked out this process's namesake damping envelope, which interpolates between small and large angular scales as a function of optical depth and the horizon size. The effect of this process on the CMB power spectrum is to suppress it by a constant factor at small angular scales, while leaving the larger angular scales unchanged. The presence of the Gunn-Peterson trough and quasar No. Of the Gunn-Peterson trough and quasar spectra determines the lower redshift bound for the occurrence of this process, after which the universe becomes transparent to photons. This process, lasting from redshift of about 11 to about 6.5, commenced with the formation of the first quasars and followed the so-called dark ages. For 10 points, identify this process during the evolution of the universe, when radiation caused the intergalactic medium to stop being neutral.
Reionization.
That's right. The speaker of this poem considers a paradox which comforts while it mocks. Shall life succeed in what it seems to fail? For 10 points each, name this poem, which was published in its author's collection Dramatis Personae. It begins, grow old with me, the best is yet to be.
That's Rabbi Ben Ezra.
This British poet's dramatic monologues include Rabbi Ben Ezra. He also wrote Child Roland Till the Dark Tower Came and The Ring of the Book.
Browning.
This Browning poem charges that although Shakespeare was of us, Milton was for us. William Wordsworth alone sinks to the rear and the slaves. This bitter attack on Wordsworth begins. Just for a handful of silver he left us, just for a ribbon to stick on his coat.
How about Browning got bread?
You wrote it so lost,
What do you got for me?
No. Lost leader.
The Lost Leader. That's
Wow.
right.
So that's 20.
Whew! Toss of 15.
Oh, yes.
The oldest known document written by this man was a memorandum arguing that an archer militia should not be set up in Hangzhou because the people there are weak, unskilled at war, and disloyal. This rival of Han Chi also opposed using the Bois-Jia system to draft soldiers, and instead unsuccessfully argued for the restoration of the Fubing system that had been used by the Tang dynasty. This man resigned from serving the Shenzhong emperor after the passage of the Jinfa policies. This man is best known for writing the Zhiji Tongjian, a treatise on government whose title translates as Comprehensive Mirror to Aid in Government, and for opposing price controls and the creation of pensions for the old and unemployed. For 10 points, name this conservative scholar official from the Song dynasty, the rival of Wang An. Sima Guang.
Wait and see what occurs. Name one or the other.
The right side of this painting yeah. I'll leave you in suspense. The right side of this painting depicts three figures in the foreground, including Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, of 10 points each. Name this small painting by Piero della Francesca, which may symbolize the assassination of Audentino da Montefeltro. Its left side portrays a courtyard where the title figure is tied to a column and scourged.
Flagellation.
Yes. The flagellation of Christ depicts this man sitting down on the left watching the whipping. Renaissance artists often painted him in the act of washing his hands.
Judas, right?
Pontius Pilate.
Okay.
Piero's versions of this scene depicts Christ wearing a pink robe and holding a white banner marked with a red cross. The version of this scene on the Eisenheim altarpiece depicts Christ raising his hands in front of a massive sun.
Right.
Yes,
That
20
picture was,
points.
like, in the cathedral.
So that was 20, right?
The meeting room we had last
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That is 20 points in the bonus.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Carrying on.
Clear.
Yeah, not the original, I would guess. Whew. Okay,
Sorry, Tommy.
toss up 16. Arthur Hutchings wrote a companion to these works. Four early ones.
Mozart's piano concertos.
Whoa.
I'm glad I didn't have to read the rest of that.
Okay.
How about this bonus? Uses of these expressions include the calculation of Ohm's law in Ohm's law conductivity in flows of charged particles, as well as the calculation of viscosity for 10 points each. Identify these doubly eponymous expressions which relate transport coefficients to integral of the equilibrium fluctuations. Name some doubly eponymous things.
Loss-off equations.
That's only singly eponymous. These are called the Green-Kubo relations. The Green-Kubo relations are often derived by considering a very small applied field. Thus, they are only valid in a regime described by this term, which implies that all response terms of order 2 and higher may be discarded.
Here.
That's right. The Green-Kubo formalism can be used to obtain the transport coefficients for this process, which is also obtainable via the Einstein relation. This process, modeled by Fick's law, is the spread of particles via random motion.
Just kind of diffusion.
It's just kind of like that.
So that's 20.
20 points.
Yay.
Toss-up 17. One character in this novel secretly puts a small cross in a dish of hot coals, causing a cross to be burned on the faces of parishioners who kiss it in order to sell his indulgences. In its final chapter, its main character marries a woman who cuckolds him with the archpriest of St. Salvador. The protagonist of this novel creates a small hole in a jug of wine to drink it on the...
Lazarillo de Tormes. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Alright.
Right. Can I get your pencil for a second? I made a last-second directive to make some changes.
Burn a bonus.
Yeah, not matter. This polity was sometimes abbreviated as Cook for 10 points each. Then this polity created by the Ausgleich Compromise, which was forced to sign the Treaty of Saint-Germain and Trianon after World War I.
Yeah.
Under this policy, Austria-Hungary forced ethnic Slavs to adopt Hungarian language and culture. It was most pronounced in the Vojvodina region of the Balkans and in what is now Slovakia. Apparently, Bruce does not recognize Slovakia.
No, it's something like majorization.
It's in quotes.
Majorization.
That's right. This foreign minister represented Austria-Hungary at the Congress of Berlin. His namesake note outlined the reasons for Austrian annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
A lot of air quotes. Schwarzberg?
No, it's Julius Andrassi.
So you get 20 points.
Toss-up 18. Because he copulated with his shadow, he's sometimes said to be self-created, although other accounts hold that he is a child of the watery deep. The earth is said to be made of this god's spittle. His physical form is similar to that of Heracles. This figure is invoked to protect against extreme fear of putrefaction in the Book of the Dead. He is sometimes depicted as the central figure of a group in a boat being held aloft by Nun. This figure rises from the sacred mount of Bennu in Heliopolis in a syncretistic form with Atum. In the myth, the true name of Ra, this figure is revealed to be the sun at dawn, but elsewhere he's depicted as the creature who rolls the sun across the sky every day like a giant ball of dung. For 10 points, named this god, who's usually depicted with the head of a scarab beetle.
Wow.
It's Kepri.
Wow.
That is some hard Egyptian death.
That's fucking hard. Toss-up 19. These types of structures are eroded by meteor bombardment at a rate of about 10 to the minus 3 centimeters per year, as well as by some of their constituent parts being siphoned off via pointing Robertson drag. Dermot and Gold proposed to...
Do you want, like, dust?
No, it's not what I want. It's not what I want at all.
It happened before.
Dermot and Gold proposed a resonance-based theory for the confinement of one set of these types of structures, while Lissauer explained the azimuthal confinement of another set of these structures by positing their discontinuity at their locations at the L4 and L5 Lagrange points. Goldreich and Tremaine proposed a torque exchange model of these types of structures in which their radial confinement is achieved by a shepherding mechanism. These types of structures may be formed from a progenitor that drifts into the Roche limit and is broken up by tidal forces. And one example of these types of structures contains the satellite Pan, which causes the Anki gap. For 10 points, identify these structures that surround giant planets such as Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter.
Rings.
I guess I'll prompt.
You want more, like planetary?
Yeah.
Rings? Okay.
I guess I already said planet, so.
The what ring?
Regrettable. You get this. Yeah, name these people who designed things for the Ottoman Empire for 10 points each. Suleiman the Magnificent made this man the first chief architect of the empire. He is buried next to his masterpiece, the Suleiman Mosque in Istanbul. Right. This student of Sinan also served as chief architect and is best known for designing the Sultan Ottoman Mosque, also known as the Blue Mosque for the color of its tiles. This is Mehmet Aga. Despite being a Catholic Christian from Europe, this man was known only by his first name, designed the massive cannons that helped bring down the walls of Constantinople in 1453.
This is Orban, actually. Okay. Orban.
It's 20 points.
Yay!
Last awesome. This battle began at Bronner's Farm with a Confederate attack on the 2nd Wisconsin, who engaged in a hot firefight with the Stonewall Brigade. Later in this battle, the 5th New York sustained the highest single battle casualties of any infantry unit in the Civil War. This battle was preceded by the smaller battles at Thoroughfare Gap and Cedar Mountain. For refusing to make an attack at this battle, Fitzjohn Porter was court-martialed, though his name was cleared after the war. The losing force at this battle was forced to retreat over the Stone Bridge, and this defeat led to the dissolution of the Army of Virginia. The losing commander of this battle, who had won fame for capturing Island No. 10 in the Mississippi Theater, was reassigned to fight the Sioux in Minnesota. The winning commander followed up this battle by invading Maryland. For 10 points, name this 1862 battle where Robert E. Lee defeated John Pope. One over here. Yeah.
Who was that?
That's Matt.
Okay.
Jesus. Characters in this work include the rickshaw puller. I'm going to have to burn. I'm going to have to, yeah. There's a problem in this bonus. I'm going to have to skip it.
All right. Okay. Do it like
There's one of the answer parts is provided in the lead-in.
Okay.
That's the problem.
It's always fun.
So we're just doing.
Rickshaw Boy.
What's that?
Are you going to ask about Rickshaw Boy?
Well, yeah, rickshaws are mentioned, and then they're mentioned again with reference to the previous thing. So I'm going to have to just burn that bonus and move on to the next one, which is convenient because we have 21 bonuses in this bag. This philosophical work has a tripartite structure which is supposed to mirror the course of historical development, with the first section dedicated to the ancient and the Christian worlds for 10 points each. Identify this work, a critique of the author's fellow Hegelians, whose future second section foresees the triumph of radical individualism.
Oh, it's Max Spinner's The Ego in His Own.
That's right. The Ego in His Own is the most famous work of this young Hegelian, who argued that schools too often treat the pupil as an object rather than someone capable of subjective self-realization in The False Principle of Our Education. Stirner comes in for some 300 pages worth of criticism in this author's The German Ideology. This thinker's other works include Capital.
So that's 30, 40, 130. Final score 390, 130. Sorry, 390, 135.
I mean, I looked it up like in class on Thursday. Good guys.
Thanks very much.